Danny, our privileged guest speaker, thanks for being here tonight. I like
My pleasure.
to typically just ask people to just introduce themselves. So I'll start to get us started. Deepak Lalwani, Principal and Management Consultant with Deepak Lalwani and Associates, LLC. Maybe you've heard of them. Turn it over to you, Danny.
Sure, Danny Mizrahi, founder and CEO of Contango IT.
Great. So should we just get right into the questions?
I'm here to serve.
So, one of the first questions we had is, which is most important to you, an organization's mission, core values, or vision?
Core values for us are everything. I mean, we recite them together as a company every Friday morning.
Really?
Yeah, our employee reviews, the 6 first things in every employee review every 6 months is the core values.
Okay.
So absolutely, we hire for culture, we fire for culture. The core values mean everything to us. They're on our website. There's a poster version at corevalues.contangoit.com. Really, literally, when I meet prospects, I have the rate structure in one sheet of the folder,
Sure.
and then on the other side of the folder is a printout of our core values.
Okay.
A couple of them are very customer focused, like being obsessed with the customer experience. We say in Contango, which means always improve, the future is higher than the present. And some of them are internal based, right? Work together and support each other, be professional, do the right thing. So the core values just, I heard once if someone said, if your employees think that you're saying the words core values too much or want to throw up every time you talk about the core values, then you're saying them the right amount, because they're that important to the foundation of the company. So I totally drink that Kool-Aid.
So what would you say is like the most important? That's a tough question for a CEO, but what would you say is the most important one to you, or what resonates?
Depends on who's upsetting me that week. So if someone's late, then it's be professional. How we look, how we act, how we speak. Early's on time is late is forgotten. We are professionals' core value.
Okay, we are.
So yeah, so that's it depends on my mood, right? One of our core values is we keep charging forward, and the whole idea is to recognize and fight slumps. I always give the analogy of, we all as humans, we have this little pilot light on, if you know a gas stove, and when we get into a slump, the fire's still there, but it's a manual process to turn it up. So to me, that's all about recognizing and fighting slumps. So first, I'm in a slump, the fire's low, but what do I got to do to turn it up? Maybe some push-ups, maybe watch some comedy, whatever it is to get out of that slump. So sometimes that's it. But the first core value is we stay in Contango. And Contango, you go to our website, whatever, Contango is a commodities expression. It means the future is higher than the spot or the present.
Okay.
And that's what we strive for, constant improvement. We want the future to be higher than the present. So I would say that growing personally and professionally and always improving is definitely our first core value, and I'd have to say it's our most important core value.
Okay.
If I had to pick one.
Yeah, no.
But they're all my babies.
Yeah, of course,
so I love all my babies equally.
How do you help a new employee understand the culture of your organization? That's a good question. So when someone comes in, how do they get a dose of the core
we
values?
use recruiters, and so the recruiters, we want them to make sure that they show the candidates, like we have this video on Dropbox and their website.
Okay.
So, it's a little bit about us. We won a culture award, the CEO Report 2018 Corporate Culture Award. So we want them to know that we won that award. We won a couple other awards, and so I want them to know about that stuff. And then the interview process says a lot about who we are. So we're very serious in the interview process. We ask a lot of hard questions. Well, we do start the interview process with a phone screen. I'll talk about that later. But the first on-site interview is really, like, the first thing I ask is basically, who are you? And then they start talking, and I say, well, no, because they start talking about their working experience.
Sure.
But what I say is, what are your hobbies? And they're like, whoa, what? And then I'm like, okay, so what's your favorite candy?
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you talking about? And which is good in the future because you can give them their favorite candy.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa, how'd you, so But we ask them a lot of personal questions at the beginning just to try to loosen them up, see what they're all about, get them comfortable, which is good and bad, by the way, because all of a sudden they think they're in a comfortable environment and they might say something they regret.
Right.
Last night I was late for 5 minutes because I swear to God, true story, because I was binge watching Daredevil on Netflix. So I was like, okay, that's why you were late. Okay, cool, you're done. So but at least
Right. You keep them on their feet.
Yeah. So the culture stuff, and then the third interview is half test. Especially if it's a technical position.
Sure.
So it's actually really any position. You want to see what they're made of. So, you give them some kind of test. And then we go to, I'm not allowed to say bar anymore because someone had an issue because they didn't drink. So I'm not allowed to say bar anymore. But we go to a restaurant with like 4 or 5 people from the team.
Okay.
We may or may not be drinking.
Sure.
But we go hang out for a little bit and get to know the person, on a culture level, a hangout level, and I think that really speaks to our culture and our core values also.
Okay, like the ability to get along with your other coworkers.
And we've had
employees.
situations where they act like a total idiot at the bar, and some of those people that are like one-uppers, one-uppers.
Oh, sure.
So sometimes there's one-uppers where it's like, well, I'm better because of blah blah blah. It's like, oh, I'm freaking glad we got this guy out for a drink, so we know that he's just going to be annoying every day. So there's little tricks that we use to see about the culture of someone, and also like I'm not hiring people that, to be very honest, I'm not hiring people that when I'm as IT consultants, when I say what are your hobbies, they're like, I'm a DJ on Friday nights and I stay out late and party. I'm like, no, I want your hobby to be video games, okay, and building computers. If it's a tech position, it depends on the position, but we hire for culture. We hire for people that are similar to the other people that they're going to be hanging out with all day.
Yeah.
So, it's important to do those kinds of things.
Yeah, you touched on hiring. So one of the hiring practices that you use is the WHO method. Yeah. What is that, and can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. So if you've never heard of it, there's so the guy that wrote Top Grading, which is like the industry standard in hiring for Fortune 500.
Okay.
His son, Jeff Smart, Brad Smart wrote Top Grading. Excuse me, too much beer. Sorry. So his son, Jeff Smart, Geoff. So in case you're googling that.
Okay.
So he wrote the WHO, the A method of hiring. So we basically use that methodology in and out from the phone screen all the way to the review process, which is, again, going back to those core values.
Okay,
so, the phone screen, you ask little quirky questions like, what are your career goals? And you hear people, for example, I've heard a lot of times, I want to start my own business in a couple years,
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, that's not exactly who I'm looking for, So I don't want people that want to come to me, learn what I do, and go start their own business. It's cool if they do, because maybe I can help them do that. We've actually done that before, and we still work with those same people. It's fine, but right off the bat, like I'd like someone to say, I want to build a career with your company. I think that's a good answer, you know. And, you ask questions like, how long do you see us being here? And I swear to God, people are like, I think in 1 or 2 years, I'll give it 1 or 2 years. And then some people are like, I want to build a career where I am. What can I do next? What's my next job at your company? And, you want those kinds of people.
Right.
So we've asked, that's just the phone screen. That's a 10, 15-minute phone screen.
Sure.
And has saved me, because I didn't used to do that. I used to just look at the resume and be like, come in. Now I just spent an hour with someone.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I just wasted an hour, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's no one's fault. It's just not doing it, in my opinion, the right way, which is, use the WHO method of hiring. Some of the questions we ask are...
and this is all part of the WHO method.
All WHO method of hiring.
And it works for the company.
It's amazing. And it's not just my company.
Okay.
A lot of other businesses
Sure.
and business owners that I know use the WHO method of hiring. And I learned it from them, from these, entrepreneur organizations that I'm involved in.
Yeah.
Peer groups, so to speak. But we asked the question because the reference questions. So now the reference questions are totally different than regular reference questions. So regular reference questions don't lead to any good results. What can they improve on? And then the reference says, well, they care too much about their job. Like that's what every reference says. Like all the silly positive things, right? So, our reference question is, if you can rate this person, one of the reference questions, if you could rate this person on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate them? And pretty much no one says 10. So they'll say 8 or 9, and boom, I got them, right? Because now the next question is, okay, awesome. If you had to get them from an 8 to a 10, what would you change, right?
Okay.
Now all of a sudden they have to say something because they had something in their mind, you know? And so that's a way to get some real feedback from a reference question. And that's all, I didn't make this up. It's all from the Who method of hiring.
Okay.
So there's just like little tricks of the trade that we like from that methodology. I can't, the whole book is, it's a huge book.
Sure.
But I highly recommend it. If you're in a hiring position, I really recommend reading it.
The Who method, okay.
Who, the A method of hiring, it's called. Jeff Smart, yeah.
What is one characteristic?
I own the stock also, in case you buy. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so, no, I'm kidding.
What's one characteristic that you believe every leader should possess?
That's a tough question because there's so many generic answers.
Sure.
Has to be a great listener and motivator. And I feel like a lot of leaders do that anyway.
Okay.
But if I compare myself to other IT business owners, because a lot of other IT business owners are technicians that created IT companies, where I was in sales and created technology companies.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, it's a lot different. I think the ability to sell, I think it's really important.
Yeah.
And when I say sell, I'm not talking about selling to businesses or clients. I'm talking about selling to everyone. Selling to the employees, right? And building trust really quickly. When I think of trust trust equals character plus competence, right? So, I think by being vulnerable and being honest and showing people where your weaknesses are, which I'm very good at because I have a lot of weaknesses, and we talk about those kinds of things as a team, et cetera. So, I think being honest, being vulnerable, caring about people is all the trust aspect, and then the competence, is, really comes down to building a great team because, you are the people around you, and I definitely pride myself in everyone around me being smarter than me. There's no doubt about it. There's a couple guys here that know that I'm really an idiot, when it comes to most things, that's not leadership based, I guess, So hiring and delegating is, really important. The whole idea of being able to close deals, not just with sales, but also with vendors, with partners, strategic partners, I know I'm going to talk about the core values so much that you guys will all want to throw up, which is my goal. But really going back to those core values, right? Always doing the right thing, always being professional, always improving. Excuse me. Those are all the things that we focus on personally and professionally.
Yeah. I too think like sales skills are really important. Sometimes I feel like it has a bad connotation. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that? Because you've been in it for so long. I'm sure you've come across.
I think sales is important.
The used car salesman idea.
Mm-hmm.
How do you overcome some of that? Because I think sales is.
Well, I have a lot to talk about that, and my wife has a lot to talk about that too. With me being a salesperson.
Right.
So, I just think that as long as you know where your moral compass is, I think as long as you know your moral compass is pointing north.
Right.
I feel like it's okay to be a salesperson.
Yeah.
And, I had a really great compliment the other day. I was sent on a deal by someone who's like a really well-connected networker and business person. And I went in there, it was a big general contractor company, and I told them, you definitely should stay with your current IT company.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. I mean, they had no complaints. They basically were price shopping, right?
Sure.
And also, trust wasn't an issue. So I made the mistake before. I took a client, and this is a long time ago, I took a small client, and he said, we love our current IT company, but me and my wife, we just love you so much. We want to give you our business, right?
Wow.
And him and
That's
his
a
wife,
compliment.
it was a great compliment, but I really regretted taking the business because what happened was that the first time there was an IT issue, we're not a great company. There was like his
Right.
complaint was, my technicians didn't know all their passwords by heart, so it took us longer to troubleshoot, which, by the way, your IT consultants should not know your passwords, because that's a whole different story. But he just was so used to that quick service of not
Okay.
having to ask someone to log in. They just logged in and fixed it for us, right? There was no
Right.
issue, right? So this general contracting, it was a big company. It would have been a great client to have, but they didn't have any IT issues except for our current IT company sent us this huge proposal. So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent,
no
but to
problem.
go back to the whole sales thing,
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about closing deals. I'm talking about doing the right thing with partners. I mean, we have built our business off strategic partnerships, right?
Yeah.
I remember one of my business coaches told me, we did this exercise, we went around the room, and they said, if you get first define your dream client. So if you're a business owner, I would highly recommend doing this exercise, right? So define your dream client. I go ahead and define my dream client. They said, okay, so tomorrow 3 of your dream clients says, I want to buy from you today. Can you execute? And at the time, I was like, there's no chance. I mean, I would take 1 and then maybe try to buy some time, or just basically tell the other 2, there's no way I can execute on all 3. I can't. I'm just going to look like an idiot, right? So that changed my perspective. So now the strategic partnerships that we have, we do 600 wires a month just in the wiring side of our business, right?
Okay.
And we can't do all of that internally. So we have our core internal team, but if we have to scale out, I know exactly where to go. Custom programming, we go through ups and downs on custom programming projects. If I need to scale out, I know where to go.
Okay.
And we have strategic partnerships that we've been working with the same companies to help us scale that come in as Contango for 5-6 years, and by the way, are they perfect? No, but that's my point. We go through ups and downs together because you're creating these relationships,
Yeah.
as opposed to just closing a deal. So I just think that sales has that negative connotation, but closing deals is not about sales. It's about building beautiful relationships.
Yeah.
It's not, and with clients too. My clients, we go through beautiful relationships with ups and downs.
Sure.
I would say, like, it's a bumpy road, but we hold on to the wheel.
Right.
And the clients that we go through ups and downs with, they always are like, well, we know you got it, because you've been honest about any mistakes you've made, and we trust you, and, you're just going to, go back to the core values. We know you're going to keep improving. We know you're obsessed with the customer experience. We know you do the right thing, et cetera,
Sure.
et cetera.
I mean, so I'm hearing like sales with some integrity.
I agree, for sure.
I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
It goes back to doing the right thing.
And doing right,
Yeah.
right. Hand in hand with doing the right thing. And then kind of strategic growth, I'm hearing having partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, like building chemistry or having relationships with them,
Yeah.
with the ebb and flow cycle of running a business.
Well, I mean, I started an IT consulting company. I wasn't an IT consultant.
Sure.
So, I mean, I was the director of sales and marketing for an IT consulting company, but
Yeah.
who was going to do the work?
Yeah,
So
of
at the
course.
time, I'm working out of my apartment. I'm eating Franks and beans, and my best meal was buy one get one free lasagna, because then I had like 4 meals, of lasagna, and it's a true story. And I had 6 subcontractors that had Contango email addresses,
Sure.
and I convinced them of one thing. I said, I'm going to pay you. I said, what's your hourly rate? And they said, my hourly is $75 an hour. I said, okay, I'll give you $85 an hour. They're like, what? And I was like, I have one condition. I want to make sure I know your calendar at all times. So you just got to share your calendar with me. And then I had a business partner at the time who was in operations, so he watched their calendar. And then what would happen was, if we had a dispatch, we know who was available. And if they weren't available and they said they were, then they weren't a sub for us anymore, right? But it all comes down to creating these relationships. If I didn't have them to support me and me to support them, it wasn't going to work.
Right.
You know?
What are your thoughts about outsourcing overseas? Are you supportive of it? And if so, is there an approach you recommend to others?
So, I mean, we haven't, well, so our office in Israel that has 38 people in cybersecurity, to me, that's not really outsourcing. The company started in Israel. So, you know, that to me is not really outsourcing, although we beat out cybersecurity companies in America all the time on price.
Okay.
You know, because it costs a lot less. So but to me, that's still not really outsourcing. Outsourcing, so we've never outsourced our technical IT department, not yet, although I wouldn't,
interesting.
well, I wouldn't be opposed to it. It's on my radar, you know, so we have 3 full-time in the Philippines, but it's really admin work, you know,
Okay.
2 assistants and a bookkeeper, part-time bookkeeper, well, she's full-time, but We also have a stateside bookkeeper also.
Okay.
But, one person in the Philippines to do like invoicing and expense reimbursements and payroll and things like that. And then 2 full-time in the Philippines that only manage me, which is basically writing emails, writing follow-ups, follow-up and send proposal, touch bases, check-ins, anything CRM related, anything email related. So all the admin stuff, and this kind of goes back to, I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Ferriss's like
Sure.
4-Hour Work Week.
Sure.
So I don't, if you've read 4-Hour Work Week, it's a fun book. It's not like the best business book, but it's a really fun book to
Right.
read. But
Got a lot of traction.
yeah, absolutely. And it's really a lot of it's about outsourcing. And a lot of it's
Okay.
about your to not do list, right? So your to not do list. So I kept track of my to not do list for months.
Okay.
Right. So for months, I put everything I did on I put everything I did on a list. And then I took that list and I split it up between my to not do list and my unique ability list, right? What's the only things that I should be doing and that I'm really good at? And nowadays that really came down to, building relationships, whether it's staff and sales or coaching and motivating and cheerleading my team, hiring and firing, but hopefully more hiring than firing.
Sure.
And so everything besides that, even writing my own emails, which I haven't been doing for years. I just kind of shorthand things and then they write it and it's in my drafts folder and I press send. Everything.
Good tip for the audience.
It's an amazing thing to do. Just for the record, the amount of time it frees up is just like absurd. I still press send, but I don't want to write hope all is well and great seeing you and thank you. And I don't want to write that anymore because every second I'm writing those things is seconds away from I could be doing something in my unique abilities and something that's really important to grow the company. So, the women I have in the Philippines, I have 3 women there that are they have their master's degrees, they're phenomenal, they work our hours, which is their nighttime shift because they want to, not because they have to. They like being, available during the day. Their kids go to school and things like that. So, that whole situation of outsourcing has been phenomenal for us.
Really worked out.
Oh, amazing. Really amazing.
And are you finding cost savings because of that?
I mean, if I told you what I was paying them, you'd think that I'm like a
No.
terrible person.
All
But they're
good.
super happy, I swear. I mean, right. These guys know they're super happy. Their loyalty is like
the biggest
unbelievable.
Fortune 500 companies have been outsourcing for years. All the big
Yeah.
management IT services companies.
Yeah, we
advocate
haven't
for
done it on tech yet. I'm not opposed to it. It's just, I don't know. There's something about overseas having passwords and logins, access
Yeah.
to servers. It's a little funky for me.
But the very transactional admin-related work.
That's easy because even the most sensitive thing, which is our bookkeeping, they can't write checks, they can't move money. It's just
Sure.
procedural stuff.
Yeah, procedural. So social networking. Can you explain the impact, if any, social networking is made on your organization or even you personally, which is
Yeah,
the
well,
era that we're living
the
in.
best. Yeah, when I started the company, there was a point in time when I was in 22 networking groups at the same time, and that's not an exaggeration because I was like, this is just getting out of hand. And I remember my business partner at the time said, dude, you're gonna die. You're gonna drive yourself into the ground, And I was like, well, I was just drinking and hanging out with people. Really, my favorite events were really the morning events, like the 7 a.m. events where you go around the room and you talk
that
about
right?
who you are. Yeah, those are my favorite events, and they still are.
And this one, BTGNY, this is one of your favorites.
Yeah, this is number one. Right to the top.
But social networking,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's been, do you handle your own or do you,
The networking?
Yeah, well, like,
so I still do.
social networking?
You're never going to believe this. I still do my 8 a.m. breakfast every day with someone, and I still do a 4:30 drink with someone every day. And I've
That's
been
great.
doing it for about 10 years.
Right.
So
yeah.
every single day I have breakfast with someone at 8 a.m., and every single day I have a drink with someone at 4:30, which makes me an alcoholic, but it's a whole different story. We don't have time for that. But my point is, I still do them. I don't really do the networking groups anymore.
Okay.
We have a couple other people now that are really, killing it in the networking groups. Once in a while, I definitely like to do them, meet people. I actually like the networking groups more now for checking in with a bunch of people that Like there's a bunch of people here that I know that I haven't seen for a while. It's just so
Okay.
nice to see those people and just great to see them face to face because we haven't seen each other in a while. So I like to go to one of those like cocktail parties where I know I'll know a bunch of people, a networking group that I used to go to all the time where I get to reconnect with people and just, have a beer and hang out or whatever. But the networking, the real thing for me was always, when I do my breakfasts, and I still do them every morning, if you're at Cucina above Grand Central at 8 a.m., you will probably see me at my table, which is like one of those, places right above Grand Central, like in the Cafe Centro and all those. So I'm there pretty much every day at 8 a.m. But when I'm at those meetings, I'm really focused on giving. I mean, if you're doing networking and you're not focused on giving, you're doing it totally the wrong way.
Yeah, say more about that. Like why, have you find that giving drives more business for Contango? Is that just something you believe in?
Well, so I was doing it and then someone said, that's because you read that book, Never Eat Alone, right? And I'm like, actually I haven't, and I've since read it. But they were like, oh yeah, so there's this statistic in the book where it says that basically most relationships are not built for 12 months plus. But if you give first, if you just give something, and I always think about the 3 I's, invitation, information, introduction. If you could do one of those 3 I's, then you can shorten up the time frame of creating a strong relationship to about 3 months. And they had some statistics.
To support that.
Yeah. Well, 27.8% of statistics are made up on the spot. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But yeah, so no. But the point is that they had some funky statistics around it. But I do believe it, and I swear to God, it's been working for me. I do think that invitation, information, introduction. As soon as I leave that, send an email. I think you guys need to connect. You guys are gals, obviously. Send a lead. If you could send a lead,
right?
Forget about it. That's the best. But sometimes I can't. So, I'd like to invite you to this event. Come join me at this golf outing, or whatever it is. Just try to give. And
you find that probably just adds the most value.
I contribute that to, besides the people, the people process. Hiring the right people. I mean, it's got to be like 90% of our success is giving, because then it just comes back around,
Yeah.
So, and giving, touching base, out of sight, out of mind is important. So you just do your touch bases, with everyone. So
one more question, and then we'll take it to the audience.
Yeah, sure.
All right, 2-part question. How would you see technology's place within your company changing?
Yeah.
In the next 3 to 5 years? I know you're doing some work in cybersecurity, and then what are you doing to prepare for it? So how would you see it change?
So internally, we're not, internally we're really lean and mean. We don't need much internally except for our labs, so our technicians can learn and grow and improve. But we don't really need anything. I mean, even we had this debate about like, should we go to Slack? And it was like,
interesting, right?
Yeah, should we? All right, if someone wants to sell me the idea of going to Slack, then I'll pay for it. And no one really was able to do it, because we have like Google Hangouts, and then we have this custom portal where we have like our wiki or whatever it is, right? So we didn't really need Slack, but we're pretty lean and mean. I would say it's, very culture-based. The technology is culture-based, right? So stand desks, right? We had a conversation today with someone, happens to be sitting right there, where I really want him to own his environment. I don't, sorry to put you on the spot, Samir, but, I said to him, I was like, you came to work here and you're sitting in, what used to be someone else's desk. I don't like that. I want you to own this environment, whether it needs to be a sit-stand desk, whether it needs to be a treadmill desk. We've done both of those things before.
Yeah, to make it work.
Do you want bigger monitors, smaller monitors, Mac, PC, whatever it is, So, and then, the only other thing I would say is, remote access. I think that video conferencing and remote access, there's cost savings in not having everyone come to the office, so that's a whole different story. So I think a lot of companies are going to a remote workforce. I don't really like it because I like everyone being together. I'm all about like the unity and oneness and all that hippie stuff or whatever you want to call it. But I do think that remote access, video conferencing, I think that's really important. And as far as in general, cybersecurity and privacy is really, privacy is probably our hottest focus right now. It's just, privacy, personal identifiable information, penetration testing, ethical hacking, all around making sure that companies store their clients' personal information properly. So that's like the biggest thing,
Yeah. Well, let's open it up to the audience. Any questions for Danny tonight?
My name is Zeke. I work for a company by the name of Intermedia Group. And I've hired consultants in the past. And it's interesting, there's always that saying that salespeople aren't made, they're born, right? Some old adage. But obviously you've had to change that paradigm by saying, I can make them become salespeople, right? Talked about your core values. But what are 3 points that you see in an individual when you're interviewing them that you say, okay, this is a consultant, not from a technical, from a personality perspective?
Well, so actually, to the first part of your question, I am on that school of thought. I don't think, consultants, we separate, we have a very, we have a wall. Maybe I shouldn't talk about the wall. Is it too political? Any kind of walls right now? Or no, no, but we really have a wall between the consultants and sales.
Okay.
Us on the sales team, and I'm really on the sales team more than the consulting team, is, we say we're not the brains behind the operation, we're just the mouth, right? So, we really want to keep up that wall. The consultants, when they're talking, they should be billing, technically, so they shouldn't be selling. So I am from that school of thought of really dividing them. Now, it can, are there consultants that are better at seeing opportunities, upselling? That's a little bit of training also. A lot of it is, I explained to some of my consultants, just remember, like, what would you do if it was your environment? Because sometimes they forget about that. They forget, they take instead of, they follow instead of lead, right? So, the client says, I want this, this, and this, and they don't ask why. They don't understand the purpose behind it, and then they do what they say, as opposed to saying, and it's okay if they're shy, because a lot of the consultants are shy, but they can come back to us and say, look, the client wants X, Y, Z, but if it was my environment, I would do ABC, right? So then, and then on the sales side, we can help with that. We can help explain that. We can follow up for them, have their back, right? Because we are a team, and we maximize strengths and minimize weaknesses. So the best consultants, I think a lot of companies fall into trouble when, and I'll be honest with you, I think probably law firms and accounting firms fall into the most trouble with this, right? Because they tell a lawyer and an accountant, if you want to make partner, you got to go sell. It's like, I've never sold in my life. I'm a nerd,
Right.
and so I'm an accountant. I'm a numbers junkie. You want me to go sell all of a sudden? And then they bring in sales trainers for them, and teach them how to sell. They're never going to learn how to sell. I mean, they're accountants, right? I mean, some of them are great, But by the way, the ones that the technicians or the consultants or the lawyers or the accountants who can do both, guess what they really are? Business owners. They're IT consultants. They start their own companies because they can do both, because they could talk the talk and walk the walk. I was only able to talk the talk, which is a little bit of a disadvantage, but I would say the best accountants that have the most interpersonal communication skills, they might be starting their own thing anyway.
So you're not really looking for sales engineers. You're really looking for one side or the other, because there's that middle ground, right, where you have your sales engineer.
I guess, well, to your point, we do have, so we call our senior consultants. So we have a couple senior consultants that come out and do our first engagement with the customer, which is a needs assessment.
Sure.
And those consultants are better with people. And you know what it really comes down to? Confidence. It really does. They have more confidence, therefore they own the room better. And one of our core values is, to be professional, how we look, how we act, how we speak. And those senior consultants look like this. And that happens to be very helpful in a meeting also. Most IT consultants are wearing polos and jeans. And I think it's a nice differentiator for us. And I think it helps command the room a little bit and build confidence. So I feel better when I'm like this. I do. I feel more confident.
Being a little archaic, but sounds like the old IBM model.
I guess so. I
quite
guess
true.
so. Yeah.
Other questions for Danny before we get back to networking? How about one or two more?
There's competition out there. What's your innovative edge in terms of
Yeah, good
technology?
question.
What are you doing that other similar companies
Sure.
are not doing?
So on the IT consulting side, the MSP side,
Yeah.
So
managed
that,
service provider?
yeah, so we have really strong differentiators there. So
Great.
one of our core values is to do the right thing, and we call it a fiduciary style of IT. We don't have monthly fees. We don't resell products. We don't mark things up. We only want to get paid for our time. It's a very different model than most consulting companies, most managed service providers.
Right.
Specifically,
Right.
yeah.
That's interesting, right? No monthly subscription.
Nope. We call it a fiduciary style of IT. We don't want to make anything we want to make money on anything except for great time, right? And it's more like a law firm model. It's more like an accounting model.
Sure.
And it's been really good to us because in the sales process it really helps because they're hearing monthly fees, subscription, reselling products, make money on everything, and then they meet us, and it's a little different. We're going to act like we're the internal IT person. We're going to act like we're your right-hand person, right? So would the internal IT guy mark up a firewall that they bought and then sell it to their boss? No, they use the company credit card, and they buy it, procurement, right? So that's what we want to do. We want to act like we're internal. We want to act like we're part of the team. We're not against them. We're not, selling these subscriptions.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
it's different.
Like the Netflix model or the Salesforce.com.
Yeah, and those monthly fee companies, I mean, honestly, it's usually monthly fees for things that you don't need, and then they charge you on top of it for the rest, right? Tier 2 is more. New computer is more. Network support more. On-site is more, right? So we do well against those companies, and it's been part of our growth. And then another big differentiator is we have a custom ticketing solution. Our clients can log in. They can see which technician did what, when did they do
Nice.
it, how long were they working for, what level of service was billed out, what's the account balance. So most IT companies, they don't have accountability and transparency. Meanwhile, for us, our clients can't spend $1 without seeing exactly how it's spent. Big differentiator between us and the other IT companies, right? And then the third thing is on the IT side, as far as differentiators go, I mean, when I started the company in 2008, late 2008, 2009, we were cloud consultants only. So we kind of always have been one step ahead, forward thinking, ahead of the curve, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like that's where we are with cybersecurity, right now. We've been doing cybersecurity for so long, and other people are just starting to catch up to us.
Great.
So I feel like we've always been one step ahead. And then we have we're 2,400 on the Inc. 5,000, fastest growing
Saw
companies in
that.
America. Yeah, so that's pretty cool because, it's a credibility checker. People like to see that it's not just talking the talk. We have some really good statistics around us in terms of growth and being in Inc. magazine and, Smart CEO. We were 50 fastest growing companies in New York. We won a culture award. We're on Dropbox's website. There's a video. We call these credibility checkers, right? So don't take
Nice.
my word for it. Take the third party's word for it. So, I think these are all differentiators between us and the competition. I don't know if that answers your question. No, I'm just kidding. It seems like it did. I'm just kidding.
So, last question for Danny, and then we'll just
And I
get
didn't
back
tell him
to
to ask that, but we do have strong. But it's a lesson, honestly, in differentiation. You have to differentiate yourself to be able to sell. Price differentiation is a strong way to do it. Mark's a great business coach, so he knows about that. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. So you've talked about constantly improving. So what are some of the things you're looking to improve? Where
Personally
do
or
you see
professionally? Because personally, I have a lot. Yeah. So rambling. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm assuming professionally or the business-wise. So what are we looking to improve on? We'd like nicer office space. I mean, we want to be one of these cool companies like everyone else, but we're not venture backed. You know what I mean? It's not. We don't just have extra money to have
That's great.
the candy everywhere and all this nonsense,
pond.
right? So, yeah. So that's very frustrating. So we'd love to grow in that regard in terms of having nicer windows. It's an inside joke with us. That's an area of improvement. Other areas of improvement for the business, I guess, the team is really strong right now and we're ready to grow, believe it or not. We feel really strong. Okay, so sales. I want to improve on sales. We want to go to the next level. And we've only been growing with organic growth. And organic growth is a beautiful thing.
Right.
It really is. It's the best way to grow because it's all referral based. We have 100% referral based today. We recently hired a sales manager, salespeople, and it's just throwing away money right now
Really?
because it's an investment.
Sure.
It's hard to deal with these kinds of things, but it's something that we believe in that will take us to the next level. So, we want exponential growth instead of organic growth. And our idea right now is to do that through a real sales management, sales team initiative, and really go out there and get it. So that's really the next thing for us is improving, increasing sales and getting away from organic growth to going to more inorganic growth and really going after it, which I know nothing about because we've been relationship building. So we had to hire people to try to make that next step. And I think it's the worst thing in the world. I don't like it at all. I don't like inorganic growth. It's hard. You get worse clients. You have a bunch of salespeople that might know what they're doing, they might not know what they're doing, and you go through them and you waste money on them, and it's totally an investment. But that's where we want to grow right now, and that's where we want to improve on.
All right, well, thank you for the
Thank you.
fireside chat.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Dan is
Thanks
right.
for having
Yes,
me.
of course.
I really appreciate it.